The first $100,000 that you save is a bitch, and you got to do whatever it takes to save $100,000.
What's the core difference between knowledge and execution?
The best advice I've ever received in my life is your next move is more important than your last mistake.
What is the bad apple effect?
So the bad apple effect is a proven phenomenon in organization psychology. They put a bunch of students into a team that want to solve complex situations. They also added 3 types of people into this study. They added someone that is a pessimist, they added people that are slackers, and they added people that were drama starters. And what they found is if you have a high-performing functional team already and you have one bad apple, that decreases the overall productivity of the team by 30 to 40%.
If somebody has a goal, how do you quantify it? And is there like mini goals you set for yourself to keep yourself motivated? How do you take action items into building it up into the bigger vision?
On an average day, a daily day, you typically have 6,000 to 60,000 thoughts in your mind. Do you think that they're more positive or negative?
Maybe more negative.
More negative, that's correct. 80% of your thoughts are negative. Now I'm going to drop a bomb for you.
When was the moment you knew you were destined to be a financial broker?
Bro, destined? I got forced into the industry. What do I mean by that is I was always going to be a chiropractor or something like in physio or athletic therapist. And one thing that happened to me growing up is I was very fortunate to live a great life, but I've also seen what it looked like without money. And having money is a lot better than having no money. Being financially secure is a lot better than being not financially secured. So my dad, he basically came home one night and he said, Victor, it doesn't matter how much money you make, you have to know how to manage your finances. And I was like, man, you're right. I don't know anything about money. I don't know how to, I know how to make it. I just don't know what to do with it. And then my dad said, come check out the part-time training program so then you can learn. And my intentions was just to learn for myself. And then the more I learned, the more I understood that, holy smokes, people need help. But not only do people need help, the financial services industry is one of the most lucrative industries in the entire world. So what if I could teach someone how to save more money? What if I could teach someone how to pay less taxes? How about I teach someone to accumulate some real wealth over their lifetime and I get paid to do so? That's where I turned the switch and I said, you know what? This is an industry that I can explore, an industry I can commit to. And then over time, I fell in love with helping people. I fell in love in coaching people. I fell in love in mentoring people. I fell in love in showing someone where they are today and the differences that we make. And I truly believe that we do make a difference. And I think that this profession in this industry, one of the biggest struggles is there's way too many families that need help, and there's not enough financial professionals entering this space. When you think about the job situation, a lot of companies are downsizing. We have AI and artificial intelligence. We have companies that are not growing. But in our space, by 2030, we're looking for 10 million more financial professionals in North America. So our industry continues to grow when everyone is slowing down. So that's why I don't think I was destined for this industry. It just kind of fell into my lap.
Does money bring happiness?
No. Money doesn't bring happiness. You see, why do I say that? If you have money and you're a bad person, you'll do bad things. If you have money and you're a good person, you'll do good things. So does money bring happiness? Not necessarily, but money brings you security. So I don't think money brings happiness, I think money brings security. And that to me is 2 different things, because when you're secure, you're able to do other things. You're not thinking about bills, you're not thinking about this, you're not thinking about, downsizing or something. So does that translate to happiness? You can argue it does, But I never thought about money makes me more happy. I think money makes me more secure.
What's the worst advice you've ever received?
The worst advice that I've ever received. Dude, there's so many bad advices. Let me think of the worst one. I've had some really bad advice. I'll give you two that I can think of. When a buddy comes to you and says, hey, I made so much money in XYZG or whatever, and they say, I just made 100 grand. You should invest in it. That is a bad advice. Typically, when someone tells you that they made money in something and they tell you that you should look into it, it's already too late. You already missed the moment. So that's number one. I've done it before once. Bad advice, bad outcome, bad results. So I learned from that mistake. It's okay to make mistakes, but don't make the same mistake twice. So that's one bad advice. The other bad advice growing up that I've heard is all successful people, they have to lie, scam, and cheat. They have to lie, scam, and cheat. That's what I've heard growing up. And that was a bad advice as well. And I've learned that you don't get criticized by people doing more than you. You get criticized by people doing less than you. It's always the case. So now I guard my mind very well. And I've always said this: easy life requires hard choices. Hard life, easy choices. What do I mean by that? If you want to have a great life, you got to make some hard choices. You got to sacrifice. You got to give up. You got to do things that others are not willing to do, so then you can have what others don't have. But if you choose the easy route, sleeping in, following the norm, then guess what? You're probably going to have a hard life in the future. So it's all kind of all connected. So that's a kind of a bad advice that I've got.
When was a pivotal moment that in your life you maybe saw a mentor that changed the way you think? Because not everyone, is born with this mindset. So when was a pivotal moment you think that maybe has shaped you in the way you are?
Yeah, I think one term that our organization talks a lot about is something called close to the fire. Close to the fire. You want to get into the smaller rooms. If you're the smartest person or most wealthiest person in your group of friends, you're in the wrong room. So one thing that I did early on in my career is I fought to get into the smaller rooms. I fought to get closer to the fire. And because of the associations, because of how successful people thought, that started to kind of rub that mindset to me. So I started to behave, act, think like someone that was already making millions of dollars. I started to think like somebody that already had $100 million net worth. Although I'm not there yet, but I'm a lot closer than a lot of people because I fought to get close to the fire. I fought to get into the small rooms.
What are those ultra successful people? How do they behave? What is the key differences that you've seen and you've experienced that you were like, wow, those are the ways that they think differently? What are those nuances?
I would say that there are a couple, but the one that stands out to me for all successful people that I've seen is they are extremely disciplined. Extremely disciplined. They complete something or they assign something and they don't stop until it's complete. When they have a goal, when they have a vision, when they have a task at hand, you don't see them procrastinate. You don't see them juggle. You see them attack it head on. You see them aggressively pursue it, and they will do whatever it takes for as long as it takes for them to hit their goals. That's what I've noticed a lot about successful people. That's number one. Number two is mental toughness. Successful people, they are mentally tough. I've heard this early on. If you want to make more money, be prepared for more problems. The problems you solve today is a direct correlation to really what your income or what your business revenue will look like in the future. If you're not willing to solve big problems, you're probably not going to get paid like someone that solves big problems. So mental toughness is something that is developed. There's always going to be stuff that hits the fan. There's always going to be adversity. There's always going to be challenges. But how you perceive and how you look at those challenges really determines a lot about someone that will be successful or someone that won't be. You probably heard a lot of people, and I call this term, it's called the yo-yo term. You're up and down. You're up and down, meaning you cannot control your emotions. You got to be able to control your emotions. You got to be able to have an even Steven kind of approach where I embrace problems, I accept problems, I'll challenge the problem, I'll go head first into the problem, and I will address it and fix it. And that is what I've noticed about successful people.
So there is logic and there's emotion. In each situation, you can think logically or you can think emotionally. Traditionally, women are more emotional than men. Now, I want to get your thoughts on being logically thinking and being a logical person in every situation. Is there a trick or is there a checklist that you go through in your mind, or is it just developed over practice?
Yeah, I think that anything that you do in your life, there are two parameters. Number one is you must logically accept whatever you're doing or whatever is being proposed. Logic is like the numbers, the math, the structure, the entity. That's logical approach. There has to be logic behind your decisions. Emotionally agree means it has to feel good. They say that if you feel good, you do good. You could accept the numbers, but if you don't feel good about doing it, you're not going to do it. So there's a mix between the two. If you say that women are more emotional when making decisions, it is true, but they'll back it up with their logic later. So men and women, there has to be those two parameters for them to make an informed decision, or they'll just change their mind later.
How do you tackle this problem? Are you like 80%, 20%, or is there different percentages for different situations?
Have you heard of something called the STAR principle before?
Never.
So the STAR principle, and there's many different acronyms or whatnot, but the STAR principles are personality types. S is for structured people. T for star is technical people. A is action, and R are relationships. Whenever you're doing a conversation or having a meeting or meeting someone for the very first time, immediately I'm thinking, what is their personality type? Because what is important to them might not be important to me. And what's important to me might not be important to you. So if I figure that you're an S-type structure type of people, they typically wear glasses. They love reading. They love numbers. They love charts. They love structure, like an accountant. An engineer is a structure. T-type are your technical types. Your scientists are very technical. Your engineers can be very technical. They need the facts. They don't want no fluff. That's the T-types. Then your A-types are your action types. These are the ones that will blow through the wall. They don't want to hear the numbers. They just want to know that they are promised XYZ and they will go for it. And then R-types is building relationships. These are the individuals that love you, hug you, shake your hand. They just make you feel nice and cozy. So once you figure out their personality type, you kind of conversate based on what's important to them. And that's what I would say is logic, emotions with personality.
Wow, that is actually super cool, and I've never heard that. Most of the knowledge that you accumulate on a day-to-day basis, do you read maybe newsletters? Do you read blogs? Or how do you make sure that you're learning every single day?
Who I am today is not who I was a year ago, or a month ago, or 3 years ago, or 5 years ago. Every single day I wake up, or everything I do as a task, I think of two things. Number one is, will this move me towards my goal, or will this move me away from my goal? Now, what's my goal? Of course, I want my business to be better. But in order for my business to be better, I have to be better. So I'm reading books, I'm listening to podcasts, I'm finding mentorship, I'm learning from other successful entrepreneurs. I'm talking to you, for example. I want to grow my mindset, and you can learn from anyone because there's so much resource out there. You can learn the mindset of successful people. So to answer your question is, you have to want to grow. You have to want to evolve. You have to want to change. You have to want to be better every single day. So next time you meet me, you'll be like, man, you changed. Good. I don't want to be the same, right? I want to be better. They say, don't get bitter, get better. So I'm always thinking about what's my next level? What's my next level? What's my next level? So and you'll never get to the peak or the pinnacle of levels per se, but you always want to level up, and be a better version of yourself.
When you eventually have children, you have sons, daughters, and your children running around, is there any framework that you have in mind that, hey, I'm going to raise them this way? Maybe I heard from Patrick Bet-David that if they read a book, he gives them $5 or you incentivize them in a certain way. Do you have anything structure-wise in your mind?
I think for me, and this may sound controversial, is, do I care about their grades? Yes and no. I care that they're in school, but what I absolutely care the most is I rather hear a teacher or a parent come up to me and say, hey, your son and daughter, they are the most respectful kids I've ever met. Your son and daughter are the most helpful individuals I've ever met. Your son and daughter help my kids or help my children with XYZ task. They're such givers. I'm more concerned about their value and their character more so than their academics. That's just my personal opinion. I'm not saying that school is not important, but I'd rather hear someone tell me that, hey, your kids are great kids because of their character, because of their value that you instilled into them. So that's what that would be kind of my approach.
Any ultra successful person in this world has built a team around itself, because if you're steering the ship, doing everything just yourself, you can maybe get your little ship to somewhere. But if you want to have big goals, you have to get a team around you to have the same vision. So I just want to kind of touch on this with you, because I know you have a team around your vision. How do you incorporate the mission, and how do you keep them motivated? How do you keep this package as one united brand to get to the goal as fast as possible?
When you think about a team, when the team's goal is bigger than your own goal gets accomplished faster. What do I mean by that? Everything I do, everything we do, it's always about the team first. It's about the team first. If I can help the team become smarter, faster, better, eventually I'll become smarter, faster, better. Most people, they think about themselves or their own agenda, and what they find is they don't build anything. You see, the number one responsibility of a leader is not to build more followers. The number one job of a leader is to develop more leaders that are self-motivated, independent, self-driven, self-efficient, with or without you. That is the true definition of a leader. So when you're building a team, and I had to learn this because I was such a control freak, is I needed to let people make mistakes. I have to put people in the spotlight. I have to kind of step away and let them grow. And that was something that I had to learn as I was building a team.
How do you find a stud? How can you tell a stud, an A player, from a C player? Is there like something that stands out to you right away? You can just tell right away, or how can you incorporate that?
When you're building a team of any organization, of any corporation, you're going to have your A players, your B players, and your C players. Your A players, you can identify them right away. These are the ones that are coachable. These are the ones that show up early. These are the ones that are constantly asking for feedback. They love to be coached. They don't want to be average. You can see them from a mile away, and I spend 80% of my time with these individuals. Then you have B players that they have the capability, but they lack the work ethics. They lack the work ethics. These are individuals where you have to coach them, mold them, and work on their next level of discipline, their next level of commitment. And how do you do that? The best time to work on someone's discipline or commitment is when they have results, when they have many results. We call it encourage, praise, and recognize. You're always trying to encourage everyone, look for their gifts, build up their identity. So those are the people that you got to mold. Then there are C players. These are individuals that are 1 foot in, 1 foot out. They're not sure what they do. I don't give up on my C players. I still want to mentor them. I still encourage them because I believe that if they have an aha moment, I can work with these individuals. But you are going to have and develop a team of A, B, and C's, and you cannot coach or mentor them all the same way. They all have different things to move them. And you as a leader, you'll learn how to identify who's a good someone to work with and someone that's not maybe as much time that you want to spend with.
You mentioned you spend 80% of your team time with those A players. Do you try to instill something more into them, or what did that 80% entail into?
My goal is not to micromanage. My goal is for them to start thinking and operating like someone that's successful. And doesn't have to be me as an example. I've always believed that if you want to make a 6-figure income, you need to copy and act like someone that's already making a 6-figure income. If you want to make a 7-figure income, you have to copy and act like someone making a 7-figure income. So these individuals that are what you call your A players, I'm not there to micromanage them. I'm there to correct or course correct and see how they can be more efficient, how they can be more faster, how they can be better, get better results, and I just mentor them and guide them that way. I believe that your A players, they'll eventually figure it out. But as a mentor, you want to make sure that they can be more efficient, be faster, be more disciplined, so they can get to their goals faster.
How do you see the landscape of financial broker or brokerage life? How do you see that? Maybe you mentioned that it will be, the numbers are going much higher by 2030, but do you think that will just keep going up, or how do you see like the next 20 years? I know we can't predict the future, but I'm just trying to see like a vague idea that you'd have about that.
Yeah, there's a term called the baby boomers, which you probably heard of before. And the baby boomers was between a period of time of 1946 and 1964. And during this time, 90 million babies were born. Before this time, 30 million. After this, before it's 30 million. So what happened was during this time, World War II just ended, and then boom, all these babies started to pop out. And they say the baby boomers, whatever they touch turns into gold. Whatever they touch turns into gold. For example, Gerber's baby food. What they did in a year, they started to do in a month in revenue. And what they did in a month, they started to do in a week in revenue. It's not because the baby food was better, it's because everybody needed baby food. Then you got the toy industry. Then you got the fast food industry. Then you got the car industry. Those industries started to explode. There was a company called Chrysler, maybe you remember, or they're still around, and they were on the verge of bankruptcy. And they actually hired a guy from Ford, and his name was Eli Iacocca. And Eli Iacocca came over to Chrysler and says, man, we have so many muscle cars, but what do people actually need? This is the baby boomers. The baby boomers need a better mode of transportation. And that's where he introduced the minivan, and that saved Chrysler. Why do I bring this up to your attention? It's because whatever the baby boomers touch turns into gold. In 2030, half, 1 in 2, financial advisors, brokers, planners will retire. But there is over a $76 trillion of money sitting in bank accounts, investment portfolios in North America that'll go from one generation to the next. And this is called the perfect storm, or the tsunami, the wealth wave tsunami, and there's not enough professionals. Do I believe our industry will ever die as a financial professional? You'll have people that want to do it themselves, but everybody is very emotional with their money. But at this very moment, there's not enough financial professionals entering the marketplace, but there's a huge gap of financial services needed for consumers. So that's just kind of my approach on that.
How different do your weekends look rather than weekdays? Do you do things differently, or do you take weekends off? Can you explain that?
Every day is the same. There are no weekends as an entrepreneur. You see, most people, they say, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to be a business owner. And I go like, okay. Then they try to be a business owner and they operate like 9 to 5. As a business owner, there is no such thing as 9 to 5. There is no such thing as holidays. There is no such things as weekends. A business owner is on the go all the time. Now you might say, why the heck would anyone want to be a business owner if you don't have holidays, you don't have weekends, you're working more than 9 to 5? It's because now you have choices. I can choose to work. I can choose not to work because of the things I've done in the past, the systems I set in place. As an employee, you can't do that. So a lot of people love the idea of running a business, but they have absolutely no idea the work required to be a business owner, the work required to start up a business. It is not easy, but it's worth it. It's worth it is because I could go take off a month and my business still continues to pay me. I could go take off 3 months, my business still continues to pay me. I could be sick for 6 months, my business still continues to pay me. But a job, you have no security. So the mindset of a business owner is you got to grind and hustle in the beginning, build systems in place, scale your business, so one day as your window is closing, you have income or passive income coming in from your business to support your lifestyle.
What are the most important and core systems that you think any business has to have in place for that reality to happen?
In my business, the first thing I would have is an executive assistant. Why do I bring that up to your attention? When you start a business, typically you want to do everything. But I've learned early on is if I can hire someone to do that mundane task, like paperwork, like administration, like the back end stuff, that frees up more time. So hiring staff is the first thing that I would do, is make sure you have a good staff. Now, you might be starting a brand new business and not have the fundings for that. Then hire part-time staff. Hire part-time staff. For me is I don't like doing tasks or roles that I can pay someone else to do, because I feel like I can spend my time somewhere else, like building connections, building relationships, retuning or refining the systems, or scaling the business, or mentoring others, than doing paperwork, as an example. So that's how I would do. Is the first thing is make sure I have the right staff in place.